his love for humanity and mankind, all was embodied within Jesus. The God, the creator of the universe, who cannot be held within a single room at all, and this could not be withheld anywhere. The space and the galaxies and the universe cannot even hold him. But yet somehow he had this divine idea. I don't know if he was just sitting there. I don't even think it just kind of dawned on him all of a sudden. But the second he knew that the potential within mankind was there, that mankind could sin and fall, he had already devised a contingency plan. And sure enough, when Adam and Eve was created, they went and did it. And then his contingency plan was triggered into action. And he looked into humanity and he knew that time would stand still when Jesus entered the scene. And so, although it took thousands of years for him to get there, it was just the same as if he would have came immediately. Why? Because time submits to God. And he decided at one point, I'm going to walk onto this earth. And I'm going to interrupt, excuse me, mess over here. Excuse me, death over here. Blindness, would you move out of my way? Deafness, could you step aside just for a second? Bondage, would you step back just for a second? Because I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to step on to the stage of broken humanity, and there's going to be transformation that will shake this world and go all the way into eternity. See, we got to understand who he is. And we have to understand that he had a plan in mind. He's just going for a little walk. just decided to kind of go out for a stroll and come to earth as a part of his journey when he decided to go for a walk. Everything that was in Jesus' path would be affected by who he is. We have to understand that it's not as if Jesus kind of had to ask permission for the dead man who was in the grave, Lazarus, that he might come forth. It's not as if Jesus went up and that the dead man somehow had authority over him. That's not the way it was. I think sometimes we get the story mixed up just simply because we compare the story to our limitations. Because I'm limited and because I'm a little queasy and I'm a little afraid when I walk up to somebody who's blind, or I walk up to somebody who's got demons in him, or I walk up to somebody who's deaf, that somehow God felt the same way. No. That's not how it was. When he walked onto the stage, everything lined up in a nice little neat line in front of him. All the blind were sitting there in this line. All the deaf right here in this. All the oppressed right here. All those demons were sitting there. Yes, sir. What do you want? Yes, sir. You want us to go into some pigs? We'll go into some pigs. You want us to do this? We'll do this. We have to understand that all authority in heaven and on earth that he has been given to us. I'm going to get to that more in a minute. But first we have to set the stage to understand who Jesus is. So that when he walks into the stage of humanity, we can understand what is triggered, what begins to occur. What begins to occur is transformation and change. See, we have to understand that there's two things. There is the way things were and the way things are. And if we look at the impact that Jesus had, we can judge the results of his effectiveness based upon the fruit of what occurred. And so we see that he came to earth. Where was he going to? Where was he walking to? He was walking straight to the cross. But along the journey, he ran into a few blind people. He ran into a few deaf people. He ran into a few dead people. And all of them sat there and just waited for his command. Do you understand that when he walked right up, Jesus walked into the presence of the blind, and blindness submitted to him again. Demons sat there waiting for his command. They submitted to his name, Jesus. There's power in the name of Jesus. And so when Jesus walked onto the stage, everything changed. Death could not hold back Lazarus or anybody else that Jesus had determined would live. And see, we mix it up sometimes. We command everything to look a certain way. For example, well, since somebody I heard got healed, we mix it up sometimes. We put our agenda in front of God and say, this is what I want to have happen. And then we get disappointed because he didn't do it our way. Rather, I would submit that if we look at really what happened on the whole novel of humanity, on the whole script of humanity, that what really was occurring was Jesus just came, and whatever he wanted and whatever his plan was, whatever his contingency plan was, everything else just lined up before it. And so if Jesus, like with Job, it was determined that Job would have a season of preparation, that it was determined that it wasn't because Job was righteous, and that qualified him for a season of preparation. Job could have prayed every night and fasted and whatever, but he had a season of boils to deal with. He had a season of just, everybody knows the story. The cows got smitten with leprosy, and the cows died. And then what else? His pigs got smitten, and his children got knocked out, and all this kind of stuff happened. And so you could sit there and say, well, he didn't have enough faith. He didn't have enough. No. That was what was on the schedule, the program for him at that moment, to build character, to build integrity, to prepare him for what he was supposed to do. We have no control over what necessarily comes our way as long as we are following Jesus with all of our hearts, but we have a lot of control of how we respond to it. But even then, we just got it. If we could just basically take our whole life and lay it at the feet of Jesus and say, you order it. You order it. You walked onto earth, you had a strategy, and you knew that it was right, what it was. We can let him order it. Wherever Jesus went, he had authority, and he was in control. Everything within his path submitted to him. And now what I want to do is, we have to understand something. I want to shift this a little bit. Now that maybe we just catch a little glimpse. And I love in the Gospels it says that everything that Jesus did, if it was recorded, that not all the books in the world would be able to hold and record what it is he did. All we have is a little glimpse, but that's more than enough of what we need. Now we got to look at, there was a little transition here. Go with me really quick to John chapter 14, verse 12. 2 Corinthians 4:7 compares us to being jars of clay. But let's look really quick at John chapter 14, verse 12. Says this, it says, I tell you the truth, that anyone who has faith in me will do what I've been doing, but he will do even greater things than these because I'm going to the Father. And then 2 Corinthians 4:7 compares us to being jars of clay. And so what we see here is although Jesus, when he came to earth and he walked onto the earth and he died on the cross and he conquered all this, but do you understand that something else was occurring? Is part of his plan was to conquer the cross. I said it yesterday at the missions conference. This statement, he conquered the cross, but that was just so that the work could begin. The work could start after he conquered the cross. If God's only intention was for us to go to heaven, then basically as soon as you got saved, you would go to heaven. But he set it up and he got everything ready for us to begin to step out and do the work that he had started. And we have to understand, John 19:30, when Jesus was on the cross, everybody knows he said a series of